Good afternoon, Year 9, and welcome to our penultimate lesson on Paper 2. Well, for now, anyway. Obviously, in Year 10, you'll be going over and over it again, and hopefully I'll have some of you because you are such a lovely group. Anyway, we're going to be. This is the second to last lesson, as I've said. Next week, we're starting Much Ado About Nothing, which is one of my, perhaps my favourite Shakespeare comedy. I'm not a massive fan of his comedies, I have to say, but this one is absolutely top draw and it stands up there with all the tragedies. So looking forward to doing that. But in the meantime, we're going to do this lesson on paper 2, some more language analysis on one of my favourite writers, H.G. Wells, and then we'll get on to Shakespeare next week. So, but before we get to that, I want you to choose one moment from Of Mice and Men where we see a character trapped in their life. This is a little bit like a GCSE question in the language, but I'm sort of mixing language and literature together here a bit, and we're practicing skills that are relevant to both papers. In fact, well, all skills are. So I want you to write a paragraph and include 2 quotes. So you could pick Curly's wife, for example, and say she's trapped in her life there because she's 19 years old. She's married to Curly. She's got no money. She, even if she were to get away from the farm, there's nothing much that a woman in her position can do. So write that paragraph and include 2 quotes. They don't have to be from her; they can be about her. Or you can, all the characters are trapped in their lives, aren't they? Apart from possibly the boss. Even he, I would have thought, is trapped in his life to a degree. Anyway, so there's your do now. I'll give you, that's quite a big do now, actually. That's a 15-minute do now, that one. And if you can, I'd like you to send it to me. So there you are, and I'll see you on the next slide in 15 minutes. Good, well, I'm looking forward to reading those. And now we're going to put in our title, first of all, looking at our learning objective, to analyse the language and structure in a 20th century piece of writing. Title: Language and Structure in the Star by H.G. Wells. That's a story that we're looking at. So put the title into your books and move on to the next slide. And here's the text. I will attach it to class charts as well for you to work on. But you can, obviously, in the usual way, if you don't have printing facilities, you can look at this slide and write down the bit rather than highlighting it that you would have done. Slightly different process, but with the same end result. But I will attach the text as well. This is from a book of short stories. In fact, it's a book that I've got that's got all his short stories in it that I bought when I was probably about your age. And I think I've given this little speech before, haven't I, when we were doing another piece from H.G. Wells. Anyway, onward. In this story by H.G. Wells, a star is on a collision course with Earth, and mankind is just beginning to become aware of the danger. So this new body has appeared in the heavens, but it appears to be getting nearer, and people are starting to imagine that there might be a problem. So here we are, I'll read it. The Star by H.G. Wells. It is nearer, they said, nearer. And voice after voice repeated, it is nearer. And the clicking telegraph took that up, and it trembled along telegraph wires, and in 1,000 cities grimy compositors fingered the type. It is nearer. Men writing in offices, struck with a strange realization, flung down their pens. Men talking in 1,000 places suddenly came upon a grotesque possibility in those words. It is nearer. It hurried along wakening streets. It was shouted down the frost-still ways of quiet villages. Men who had read these things from the throbbing tape stood in yellow-lit doorways shouting the news to passers-by. It is nearer. Pretty women, flushed and glittering, heard the news told jestingly between dances and feigned an intelligent interest they did not feel. Lonely tramps faring through the wintry night murmured those words to comfort themselves, looking skyward. It has need to be nearer, for the night's as cold as charity. Don't see much warmth from it if it is nearer all the same. The schoolboy, rising early for his examination work, puzzled it out for himself. With the great white star shining broad and bright through the frost of his window. Centrifugal, centripetal, he said, with his chin on his fist. Stop a planet in its flight, rob it of its centrifugal force, what then? Centripetal has it, and down it falls into the sun. Do we come in the way? I wonder. Now, this is always how question 3 will look on paper 2. You must be getting the hang of this by now. First of all, you have to isolate the lines that you need to look at, and here it's lines 1 to 8. Always get in the habit of doing that, putting a bracket around them, because if you do any work on any other part of the text, you won't get any marks for it. Then look at the question. Explore how the writer presents the impending collision between the Earth and the star. Support your ideas by referring to the language and structure of this section using relevant subject terminology. Now you're writing 2 paragraphs on structure, 2 paragraphs on language, and using subject terminology, which is this metaphor, this simile, this adjective, whatever, and with structure it's this dash, this comma, whatever, and then you must mention the effect on the reader. Now, I'm not going to model finding the language and structure for you today, but what I have done, because it's important that we all get better and better at this, and it's a thing that gets you further and further up the mark scheme, but is actually quite hard to master. When you're doing this language and structure question 3 on paper 2, it's going to be 2 language and 2 structure responses, 2 language and 2 structure, but you have to have your overarching critical idea. So when we look at the question, which is how has the star's impending collision with the Earth been shown, we need to sort of have some kind of statement before we launch into those 4 paragraphs saying what we think. And here's mine. The writer has created a fast pace using lists and dashes to achieve the feel of the star hurtling toward Earth. He has used personification to add the effect of the star rushing toward Earth in a way that mankind is unable to stop. And then I would write 4 paragraphs, 2 language, 2 structure, supporting that critical statement. If you want to, you can use that critical statement. We're at that stage still. If not, you're obviously welcome to create one of your own. And there you are. On to the next slide. And now here's the question again. I won't read it all out again. Have a go at this, and I would really like as many of you as you can to send this to me. So I can have a look and see how you're getting on with it. Anyway, enjoy that, and I will speak to you tomorrow. Thanks, Year 9.